Have you ever really thought about how our local criminal courts are put together? I mean, who's actually in charge? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the actual blueprint of justice, the real org chart that shapes law and order in our communities every single day.
So, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at the basic blueprint of the justice system. Then, we'll get into the two very different kinds of magistrates. After that, we'll trace the chain of command for both the judicial and the executive sides, check out some special roles, and wrap it all up by asking why this whole structure matters in the first place.
All right, let's jump right in. You see, the court system isn't just some chaotic mess of buildings and judges. No, it's actually a very deliberately designed structure with really clear lines of who's in charge of what.
So who actually gets to call the shots? Is it the government that decides everything, or is it a higher court? Well, the answer is kind of both, and understanding that split is the secret to making sense of the entire system.
Okay, so the whole system is built on this one fundamental division. Now, you've probably heard the term magistrate. They're the judges who handle cases in the lower courts. But it turns out there isn't just one type. There are two very distinct categories, and they each get their power from completely different places.
And this slide right here gets to the absolute heart of it. On one side, you've got the judicial magistrates. They're appointed by the high court, and they deal with actual judicial matters, court cases. But on the other side, you have executive magistrates. They're appointed by the state government, and their job is all about administration and prevention. This is the separation of powers in action, and it's the key idea we're going to see over and over again.
All right, let's follow the org chart on the judicial side. We're going to trace the chain of command, starting right at the top of a district's criminal court system.
At the very top of the pyramid in a district, you'll find the Court of Session. Now pay close attention to this detail because it's important. The state government is the one that actually establishes the court building, but the person running the show, the sessions judge, is appointed by the high court. See that separation already?
So, the sessions judge is a pretty big deal. They're put in place by the high court, and it's their job to manage the entire workload, divvying up cases among their additional judges. This whole setup makes sure that control over judging cases stays firmly within the judicial branch, completely separate from other influences.
And what happens if that top spot is empty? Does everything just grind to a halt? Nope. The system has a built-in backup plan. There's a clear line of succession, so if an urgent case comes up, justice doesn't have to wait. There's always someone ready to step in.
Okay, let's go one step down the ladder. Here we meet the Chief Judicial Magistrate, or CJM. The best way to think of this person is as the district's chief operating officer for all the magistrate courts. They are handpicked by the High Court to manage that day-to-day judicial workflow. So, the CJM reports up to the sessions judge, but they have direct authority over all the other judicial magistrates below them. They're the ones assigning cases, deciding which court covers which neighborhood, and basically making sure the trains run on time at the ground level.
And right here we have the foundation of the whole system. These are the courts on the front line. For the vast majority of people, this is their first and maybe only interaction with the criminal justice system. And again, notice that partnership. The state government sets them up, but only after getting the green light from the high court.
All the judges presiding here are, you guessed it, appointed by the High Court, and they all report up to the CJM. And for even more localized management, the High Court can appoint a subdivisional magistrate to oversee things in a specific part of the district.
So let's just step back and look at the pattern here. Take a look at that appointed by column. What do you see? High Court, High Court, High Court. That's not an accident. It creates this clear, unbroken chain of judicial authority, making it accountable to itself and totally independent of direct government control.
Okay, time to switch gears. We've seen the judicial ladder, now let's look at that other pillar, the executive hierarchy. These are the folks who handle the administrative side of things.
At the top of this chain of command is the district magistrate, or the DM. This is the state government's top official in the district. Their job is all about executive and administrative functions, things like preventative actions and maintaining public order.
The DM is in charge of a whole team, and every single one of them is appointed by the state government. And what's really interesting is that the government can even grant these executive magistrate powers to a senior police official, like a commissioner of police. That creates a very direct link between law enforcement and this administrative chain.
And this chart just makes the contrast crystal clear, doesn't it? Look at the appointed by column now. State government, state government, state government. This hierarchy runs parallel to the judicial one, but it reports straight up to the government, not to the high court.
Two separate ladders, two separate sources of power.
Now, this whole structure isn't completely rigid. It's actually got some built-in flexibility. On both sides of the aisle, there's a way to create special, temporary roles when a unique situation pops up.
So on the judicial side, let's say there's a huge backlog of a certain type of case, like traffic violations. Well, the High Court can bring in a special judicial magistrate, usually someone with specific legal expertise, to focus just on that particular problem.
And this isn't a permanent gig. The law is very clear. These appointments can only last for 1 year at a time. It really emphasizes that these are special measures for special situations.
And wouldn't you know it, the executive side has a very similar tool in its toolbox. The state government can appoint special executive magistrates for specific functions, and once again, this role can be given to a senior police officer, linking administration and law enforcement for a particular task.
So we've seen the two ladders, the judicial one and the executive one, standing side by side. Let's pull all these threads together now and ask the single most important question. Why? What's the point of this whole, seemingly complex design?
So what is the big takeaway here? This entire structure is a deliberate, careful separation of powers. The power to judge cases is kept in the hands of an independent judiciary, while the power to manage and administer is held by the elected government. The whole idea is to create checks and balances right there at the local level. But it leaves us with one final big question. How well does this blueprint for justice actually work in the real world? Thanks for joining me.